back. So, back in 1993, a little movie starring Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes and a very young Sandra Bullock came out called Demolition Man. And this movie, in spite of it kind of being like a cheesy sci-fi action flick, actually predicted a lot of pretty interesting things. It predicted VR sex, toxic masculinity, PC culture, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So let's break it down on this first ever version of Underrated Gems. That's what I went with. Is that what I'm going to call it? Sure, why not? Underrated Gems. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
You know, just as I was introducing that, I realized, hey, I don't have an open for this. I haven't made one. It's because I haven't decided on the title. Is it underappreciated? Is it underrated? I like underrated gems, but the problem is that a lot of the movies that I want to break down, they're not underrated, but still it's a good title. I don't know. I'll see how it goes. And again, they're not underappreciated, some of them. But anyway, we're gonna stick to this one today because it's almost a 2-hour movie. And like I said, I'm gonna break it all down. It's gonna be interesting. Because I mean, I've done this with Game of Thrones and stuff, and it takes a while. So we'll see how long this takes. But for those of you who don't know, like I said, Demolition Man is a movie that came out in 1993 starring Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, and Sandra Bullock, among others. I think Dennis Leary's in there too. So for those of you who've never seen it, I highly recommend that you watch it before watching this video, because unless you don't mind spoilers. Because like I said, I'm going to go through the whole movie. It's just kind of telling you stuff. So there you go. It's up to you. Do whatever you want. But I recommend you watch the movie because, again, it's fun. It's a cheesy action sci-fi movie. It's not the best action movie, but culturally it's very interesting because, again, the stuff that I've just mentioned. It has a very interesting portrayal of society and how they looked at the future back in the 90s. So quick summary of the film for those of you, again, who haven't seen it. And maybe don't even care to see it. Maybe you'll watch it after this video. Who knows? But with innocent victims caught in the crossfire in Los Angeles' intensifying war on crime, both cop John Spartan, played by Sylvester Stallone, and violent thug Simon Phoenix, played by Wesley Snipes, are sentenced to a state of frozen incarceration known as cryoprison. When Spartan is finally thawed 36 years later, it's 2032. And if you're doing the math there, I'll explain it in a little bit. And Los Angeles is now a pacifist utopia called San Angeles. But with Phoenix again on the loose, Spartan must team up with a future cop, Lenina, played by Sandra Bullock, to apprehend the killer. Now, if you did the math there real quick, this movie, the first part takes place in 1996, and then it takes place in 2032. So, as I mentioned, this movie came out in 1993, so it's a movie about the future. So it's a double whammy. So first, it shows you how they think LA is going to be in a few years, and then in a few decades. So there you go. That's it. Let's begin. Let's get into the big screen here, and let's get started. So the movie begins with an action scene, right? Los Angeles, 1996. We get to see Sylvester Stallone and a group of elite cops go into LA and try to stop, as we already mentioned, Phoenix. Again, as always, I'm terrible with names. I'm probably going to forget them halfway through, but I'm just going to... Simon Phoenix, John Spartan. If I start calling them Sylvester Stallone or Wesley Snipes, bear with me, because, again, I suck with names. Anyway... So you see Sylvester Stallone trying to go into, try to stop a terrorist situation that's being made by Phoenix, which is, again, Wesley Snipes. Basically, Wesley Snipes has a bunch of hostages and took a building hostage and is saying, hey, you know what? This corner of LA is mine. F you. Get out of here, police. Get out of here, government. Get out of here, everybody. It's mine. I control it. So kind of very... very reminiscent to, you know what happened during COVID? What was that thing in Seattle? It was a really stupid name. God, I wish I remember. But, you know, they did the same thing. They blockaded a part of the city in Seattle. Cops couldn't come in or anything. I want to say The Foot, but that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But anyway, they predicted that. And so, basically, John Spartan comes in. They make sure that there's no... hostages in the area, and they come in guns blazing. Guns blazing, again, a bunch of action, until there's the confrontation between Simon Phoenix and John Spartan. John Spartan kicks his ass. However, Phoenix had this situation set up where basically, I have a bunch of gasoline here, it's gonna blow up and it's gonna kill everybody. John Spartan is like, make my day, I already know that the freaking hostages aren't here. So he beats up River Phoenix. I'm gonna say River Phoenix a lot. I know that guy's not the right person. Bear with me again, trouble with names. Simon Phoenix, he gets them out of there. He gets him out of there, arrested. Everybody's like, all right, so what happened? Where are the hostages? Turns out, one guy comes in and is like, dude, I just found like dozens of bodies over there. Those were the hostages. They blew up, Spartan blew up the building with all the hostages in there. So it looks like a very serious crime for John Spartan. So Simon Phoenix gets arrested and John Spartan gets arrested too because, you know, they're saying like, well, you didn't check to make sure there weren't hostages and you just went in there guns blazing. You going to jail. You going to jail. And so now the jail that they're sent to is one where basically you're frozen. And while you're frozen, they kind of rearrange your brain. So while you're sleeping, kind of, they're going to use software that's going to retrain your brain while you're frozen. So when you wake up, supposedly, you're no longer going to be whatever it is that brought you in there. So if you were a psychopath, you're going to come out not a psychopath. If you were very violent, you're going to come out not very violent. All right, so there you go. So again, it's very reminiscent to Clockwork Orange here. Anyway, so you're going to see a whole bunch of just basically Sylvester Stallone. They're trying to show off how ripped he is or whatever. And the whole process of being frozen, blah, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. They break like a little spear thing. And that's what freezes everything in that particular area. And then we come to 2032. So in 2032, we get to see a little bit of how the prison's going. The prison seems like it's going fine. And they get a call in by a police officer. Again, Sandra Bullock. Lenina, I believe is her name. Let me just double check that. Because again, trouble with names. Lenina Huxley. There you go. So apparently, Lenina Huxley has to call in and check in to see, hey, what's the prisoner count? How are things going in the prison? And, you know, the person, I forget the name. What do you call the people in the prison who run the prison? I don't know. What are the guards? The head? Whatever. Doesn't matter. So that guy's like, everything's fine. I mean, they're frozen. What trouble could we actually have here? It's actually stupid. But here we start with one of the first things that this movie got right. Tablets. So this movie predicted tablets. Again, this is 1993. We don't even have the iPhone yet, all right? And this thing already predicted tablets and video calls. So again, video calls is not exactly a new thing. It's not something that hadn't been used before in other mediums. But again, mixing this with a tablet, it's kind of like all this thing. All right, so okay, so it got that right. And it's actually funny if you look at the tablet. The past, when you do something like when you're trying to predict the future, you could only use the things that you have at your disposal. And so what they had back in the 1990s is they had picture frames. And if you see what this tablet looks like, it's a chrome picture frame. And they're like, oh, so well, if you're gonna do a video call, it's gonna be a picture frame, right? And so they used a picture frame for this. So again, it's fun going back and looking at all this stuff. So in this conversation, it's actually pretty fun because Sandra Bullock tells her like, you know, this. I was hoping for a little bit more stimulus, and the way that they speak is extremely polite. But basically, it indicates that Sandra Bullock is kind of bored at being a cop, that there's no action, and she asked the guy, do you think, and the warden, that's the word I was looking for, the warden's like, I try not to think. So again, but you're young, you can still do it. So it tells you a lot about how the future is. This is the future where people are encouraged not to think. All right, they're encouraged to be uber polite, and their lives are kind of boring, and they're encouraged not to think. So we'll see where that leads a little later on into the future. But again, you know, we get to see the technology here. Video call in the car. It's kind of similar to the technology at the time, I guess, but not so much. Again, so here we get to see, you know, the beautiful San Angeles, and everything's green and beautiful, the types of buildings and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Then let's see. So they report to the station, and now we get to see an instance of vandalism, crime. So apparently some machine did some graffiti. So we don't know exactly what happened. Well, a machine pops out of the ground and tags the building. You know, life is hell. Tags it with graffiti, and then we get to see a machine clean it up. So a machine does vandalism and another machine cleans it up. We assume that it's operated by somebody, except the cleaning up part, because that was probably automatic. But you know, we'll see. Oh yeah, so this is kind of like the machine that comes out of the ground. So that we get to see Dennis Leary and what looks to be like mole people or underground people using like telescopes. Like imagine they're underground using telescopes like they use on like a submarine. Is that what periscope? Like a periscope popping out of the ground, and they're staking a building, right? So you see this nice little building here. They're staking it out, and we're assuming they're getting ready for a crime. So we see the San Angeles Police Department. Yeah. What's his name? What's his name? I keep forgetting. Damn it. I really should write names down. But here we got another. It's he's always in Adam Sandler movies. What the hell's his name? It's the hot chick. This is gonna bug me. Let me see it real quick. It has to be an all cast and crew. Not Dennis Leary. What the hell? He's not even like in the top billing? What's his name? Damn. Maybe. Whoa, wow. Was he not even in the IMDb here? Wow. I'll just check the hot chick real quick. You know that movie? Rob Schneider. Okay. That was gonna bug me. And I actually got the name before. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. And I'm just making this video longer, and it's already gonna be pretty long, probably. So we get to see, again, the interactions, and the funny, interesting thing that we see here is that people don't touch each other. When they say hello, the hands, they're like, almost touching, but not really. Again, there's clearly been a dramatic change in the way people talk to each other, the way that they interact with each other, not touching each other, not anything, trying to be uber polite, and even when they're chastised, the way that they respond is info assimilated. So the girl got chastised for a reason. She was just like, yeah, info assimilated. So like almost like if she were a machine. Then she insults the guy, and this machine right behind her gives her a ticket. So here we learn that whenever you insult somebody, you get a ticket. So here, again, we're getting into the PC culture stuff. Your speech will be policed. So whenever you say a bad word or something offensive, even in private, even where nobody else could hear you, even when you weren't hurting anybody else's feelings, ticket, which means that you can go to jail for insulting people. I don't know if this counts as hate speech, predicting it. I don't think so, but me like the PC police, you know, the PC police, literally right there. Like, yeah, you said naughty words, you go to jail. And I know what you're thinking. A ticket is not going to jail. But if you don't pay the ticket, what happens? You go to jail. So they're saying you can go to jail for saying naughty words. So there you go. So again, it's really weird how they predicted. They took it to a ridiculous level, but still predicted it in a way, which is still fun. Anyway, let's continue. So here we get to see her office and a bunch of 90s merch, and you could have a lot of fun trying to break down a bunch of stuff. There's this katana back here. A part of me wants to say that this is the one from Three Ninjas, but because it's gold, but I think the one from Three Ninjas was longer. There's a bunch of there's a Lethal Weapon poster. These claws. I know I've seen these, breaks into three. I know them. It's not Wolverine. I know them. It's been driving me nuts that I can't remember where it's from. Anyway, you see Lethal Weapon posters and stuff. So yeah, a Batman, Joker. So again, a bunch. Clearly, she's a 90s fan. It's her thing. All right, it's her thing. So again, we learned from her. We learned that that other officers do not want to face violence in any way, shape, or form. They're not into it. They actually probably like that the job's kind of like chill, and they're also like a bunch of pansies. So next we have River. I was gonna say River Phoenix again. Next we have Simon Phoenix go and have his parole meeting with the warden, and now this meeting is pretty bizarre because why is this guy being woken up in 2036? Supposedly this guy should have been, frozen for a lot longer than John Spartan, who is still frozen at this particular time. And for some reason, Simon Phoenix knew the code that opened up his shackles, and so he got released. He kills the 2 guards, and then he goes after the warden to take out his eyes so that he can open up, any security door that he needed. So again, basically he escaped. So this is all a very bizarre situation. Why was Simon Phoenix released? How did he know the codes? Clearly there's shenanigans going on. So again, there you go. And now there's been a report that the AI in the system reports that there's been a murder, right? Like some people have been dead. Somebody's been killed. And everybody's so shocked. They're like, what is even a code 187? They have to look it up. And now we go into AI stuff. So the computer kind of does everything for them. Not really. Like not to the level that we're seeing things now. But back then it's like code 187. Code 187. What the hell's code 187? And they ask it questions and they answer it. So again, they were kind of predicting AI a little bit, not so much. And again, cops are like, wait, what? What are we supposed to do? I don't know. Well, how do we stop this? I don't know. But clearly, they're just shocked. They've never encountered a murder before. And now there's several murders. And so they're like, well, what do we do? I don't know. And so until somebody comes up with a plan and they start enacting that plan, which is basically like, hey, let's try to find this guy. But one of the dudes here, he's an old guy and he remembers Phoenix from, back in 1996. And he's like, no, this dude's big trouble. Like, we need something. So River Phoenix, in the meantime, oh yeah, again, here we learn something interesting. As they're trying to find where Phoenix is, they're like, well, why don't we just follow his tracker? And he's like, no, he was from back in, the old guy's like, no, he was back from 1996 before they low-jacked everybody. So they're telling us in the future, they track everybody, which is, again, kind of where it's going in our current society. There's certain companies, well, there's at least one company that I know of that inserted a chip into their employees so they could have access to the building and stuff. I mean, you could have just given them a badge, but they do that. I mean, our phones track us wherever we go. Most of our electronic devices, they have our location. Facebook knows when you poops. We're always being tracked. So again, not exactly low-jack yet. So we're kind of low-jacked in the sense that we're carrying around stuff that tracks us. We're not at the point where it's inserted into our bodies yet everywhere. Because there is going to be a point where that happens, probably. They're going to be like, oh, well, it's just for you to have easier access for this. And you know what? Some people might even take it because it's going to be convenient. Because it's going to be disguised as convenient. And you know what? They might be true. For example, they'll be like, well, we'll insert, like, let's say for older people, we'll insert this chip in your body and it will monitor your heart. And if your heart, gets too crazy, we'll send an ambulance immediately. Okay, well, maybe, you put this chip, and when you're crossing the border, we know exactly who you are and all that stuff, and so you can cross immediately, or you don't have to wait 2 to 4 hours when you're crossing the border, or whatever, or passing TSA or stuff like that. So they will hide it as something, as convenience or whatever, and they're kind of already doing it, but not on this level. But again, another thing it sort of predicted that wasn't happening back then. Again, low-jack cars. You low-jack cars. You didn't low-jack people. Now people are low-jacked with their phones, but it's kind of voluntary, I guess. I don't know. Fun stuff. So again, they show that River Phoenix, son of a bitch. Why am I such an idiot with names? I don't know. So they're trying to find out, start a plan of how they can find him. So they start monitoring where the particular vehicle went, blah, blah. And they found him in the corner of Wilshire and whatever. And so they sent police officers to stop him. So here's another interesting thing. Mr. Phoenix here, he goes into a payphone. And in this payphone, he starts looking for a guy, Mr. Edgar Friendly. He has no idea who he is, played by Dennis Leary. He finds him, and he's like, why am I looking for this guy? I don't know. But again, this is a payphone. All right, he goes to a payphone, and it's giving him a bunch of information, right? It's like an information booth. Payphones don't really exist anymore, but it's, again, people are using the technology at the time to predict how the future was going to be. So what did they have back then that allowed them to, get information from a very long distance? Well, they had phones that you can call, and they had computers. And so what they did was like, well, it's in the future, they're probably going to mix those two, right? It's going to be a phone that you can access information to, right? And it'll be really far. It'll be really convenient. They didn't have phones, all right, or at least, wireless phones. They cell phones. And so they didn't predict cell phones per se. They were close with the tablets, but they used their technology of the time, which was payphones, because they did not have cell phones. If they had cell phones, the thing that would have happened here is probably that, Phoenix would have accessed the cell phone. He would have gone and found a cell phone to continue on and find out who the hell Friendly is or whatever. So there you go. Or maybe stealing a laptop or something, which again did not exist at the time. Or at least did laptops exist in 1993 or earlier 1990? I don't know. I was a baby. I don't know, but whatever. So there you go. Next, all right, so he finds out that he has to kill him, and now he's starting to find out he needs to get access to weapons. He's trying to figure out where he can get a weapon, where he can get a gun. And blah, 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 blah. He's just trying to figure it out, and so cops arrive. And here, it's interesting because the cops are using a device to tell them how to deal with the situation because they don't know how to deal with a violent criminal because this is the future, and nobody's violent. And guess what happens when you try to peacefully deal with a violent person? Try to guess. Think about it. Think about it for 3, 2, 1. You get your ass kicked. You get your ass kicked 6 ways till Sunday. Really badly. Really, really badly. And that's exactly what Mr. Simon Phoenix did. He whooped them hard. Left to right. Because you know how they have this thing now where they're trying they should send social workers to deal with all these violent criminals and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. They'll get their asses kicked really hard. Because you know what psychopaths do? Or you know what psychopaths don't care about? Nothing. Because they're crazy. They're crazy, violent people. And they'll hurt you. And so you kind of need somebody that is going to match their level of aggressiveness, of violence. Unless you just want the other person, unless you just hate the social workers and you want to get their ass kicked, which they will, if they're lucky. If not, they're probably going to die. But anyway, let's get back to it. So, as I was saying, Simon Phoenix kicks everybody's ass, explodes a car, does hold this bunch of stuff. Because guess what the cops don't have? They don't have guns. They have like a stick. I don't even know what the stick does. I'm assuming it shocks them. And that's it. They had also stern words and a computer that tells them what to say. Shocker that they were not able to deal with a violent, aggressive, hostile enemy. So again, they're predicting the way that they want the world to be policed. They want police officers to be polite and hold people's hands and be nice and guess what? Crazy people do crazy stuff. Violent people do violent stuff. And there's only one way to stop them, and it's not saying please. All right? You know what? You go try it. You go and try to peacefully deal with, I don't know, what do you want to deal with? Let's say a crackhead wielding a machete. It's just like, walking around with a machete. You go talk to that guy. Let me know how it goes. Afterwards, we'll see how it goes. And you just... On Mondays, I do live shows at 7 p.m. Hop on in, let me know how it went. All right, I'm very curious. I'm very curious to find out how it went. Anyway, so the cops are like, well, what are we supposed to do? And there's an iconic line here from Rob Schneider where he's like, we're police officers. We're not equipped to deal with this kind of violence. So again, it's just showing you that the future's just a bunch of pussies. And here we get to meet this guy whose name I do not remember, so I gotta look it up again. Dr. Raymond Cocteau. So Dr. Cocteau again, I name's not my thing. And so apparently this guy is kind of like the head of the city, and we start seeing new techie stuff. You know, about like a board meeting, but everybody's doing it via video. So again, predicting kind of like Zoom. All right, this is Zoom. This is this is how a lot of meetings went starting in 2020. This is how the board meetings looked. Like everybody was doing social distancing and stuff like that. Now for completely different reasons, but they kind of got that one right, and it's pretty funny. So again, we see that this guy's kind of the head of the city, blah blah blah, and whatever. And honestly, this is not really that relevant. So he gets called by one of the cops, and the cops is like, hey, so what do we do? How can we stop this guy? And the old officer is like, well, the guy who stopped him was John Spartan, and maybe we should unfreeze the guy. And so since the head of the city, Mr. Cocteau, was like, yeah, well, do whatever you have to do to stop this guy, the police officer is like, all right, sure, let's do that. I don't like this. I don't think it's a good idea, but let's do that. So they started unfreezing John Spartan, and they did. And supposedly everything went great. So when they get him out, they start kind of explaining how things are in the early 2000s. And so again, they look at him kind of as a caveman. All right, they look at John Spartan like he's a caveman, and actually they call him a caveman several times. He's kind of concerned about, like, how long have I been out? I had a wife, I had a daughter. They're like, fuck you and your wife and your daughter, all right? We brought you back for a reason, and after you do this stuff, maybe we'll let you out, maybe we won't, I doubt it, but whatever. Sure, we'll let you out, whatever. And John Spartan's like, wait, why is Phoenix out? Why is all this stuff? Like, again, fuck you and your questions, caveman. Do what we say or whatever. So they did. And so they explained basically that after the great earthquake of the early 2000s, I think, this is like the earthquake, a bunch of people died, including his wife. So his wife is dead, which sucks. But, and he's sad about it. But yeah, basically after that big earthquake, Earth changed. So a massive tragedy happened that allowed government to take control of society. Ringing any bells to anybody out there? Am I alone? But anyway, so big tragedy happened, except this one was at like deaths. I'm assuming in the millions in just California alone. They don't really say much worldwide, and it forced them to change how counties work in California. So now it's from Santa Clara, San Bernardino, I don't know, from the north, San something, all the way down to San Diego is now just one big county, and it's called San Angeles. So there you go, in case you were wondering why it's called San Angeles. So they tell him all the stuff that's been banned. So he wants a cigarette, can't smoke because it's bad for you. And basically they tell him any single thing that's bad for you has been banned. So meat, contact sports, abortions, but abortions technically not, because you can't have babies, because lust, that's bad for you. What other stuff is bad for you? Bad words. She gives her a whole list. Let me see. Contact sports. No. Cigarettes, drinking. What else? 10, 5, 4. All right. Yeah, whatever. Alcohol, smoking, drugs, all that stuff, not bad for you. And again, they find you for uneducational toys and anything spicy. So spicy food. So they really just don't want Mexicans there. You're like, what? No beer? What? We can't cuss? What? We can't have any toys? What? We can't have anything spicy? F you guys. I'm going home. You guys are no fun. Whatever. So again, interesting again, how they start trying to tell you what's good for you. And, you know, in a way, they got this one right. For example, in California right now, I think, if I remember correctly, in El Cajon, you can't smoke until you're a certain distance from buildings. So the whole smoking thing, I understand. Now, they didn't get the drug thing right, because the drugs, now they're allowing more drugs. So no cigarettes, but drugs okay. Weird. The meat thing, you know, there's been this whole movement of trying to get rid of meat and trying to, you know, because cows fart too much and all this stuff, and the environment, and it's bad for you. Still, we keep saying F you, but this is 2032. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So again, they're trying to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And so the police chief doesn't like him, and he's like, if you cause too much trouble, you're going to go back to being an ice cube, blah, blah. Just catch Simon Phoenix, and you are in charge, Agent Officer Huxley or whatever. So they go, they try to find more information, and now we reach another one of the iconic scenes. So Sylvester Stallone, or the iconic things from this movie. Sylvester Stallone goes to the toilet, and there he finds out that there's no toilet paper. And everybody starts laughing like, well, what's toilet paper? Like, well, in the 1990s or in the 20th century, they used to use paper to wipe their butts, blah, blah, and everyone's like, ha, 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 that's stupid. Why didn't they just use the 3 seashells? Ha, 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 ha. We still, to this day, do not know what the 3 seashells are or how they work. And it's driven people nuts. I can't tell you how much theorizing or how many conversations I've had of people trying to figure out what the hell the 3 sea... Well, we know what the 3 seashells are. It's literally 3 seashells, but we don't know how they work, and you kind of don't want to know how they work, but you want to know how they work. So, again, we don't know what it is, but we get to see, again, no waste in paper. Waste in paper is bad for you. And so, John Spartan's creative solution here is that, oh, well, I get a fine every single time I say a bad word, right? So he goes up to the here, John Spartan, he meets, you know, the old cop who used to be a young cop with him. And so they start talking like, hey, you old dog, whatever, you son of a bitch. And Sandra Bullock explains that, oh yeah, back in the early 2000s, men used to speak each other that way to cover for their own insecurities or whatever. Which is actually pretty funny. It's actually a pretty clever line. But I don't feel that way. It's offensive, but it's funny at the same time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Sylvester Stallone figured out, so whenever I use a bad word, a ticket comes out of here. And the ticket is made of paper. Gotcha. So he goes there, says a bunch of stupid, bunch of bad words to the machine, gets a bunch of paper, goes into the restroom. Problem solved. He got his toilet paper. Next. So let's continue. And so again, he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. What's in the mind of Simon Phoenix? What the hell? How did he get out? Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And so, so Simon's like, listen, we need to find, he wants a gun. So let's go get a gun. He's going for a gun because that's what I do. Why? Because A, guns are cool. B, you kind of need them if you're going to, you know, be a criminal. And if you actually want to have some kind of power. And the cops are like, dude, the only place where he can find a gun is maybe a museum. So he's like, well, let's go to the museum. So next we go to the museum. It turns out that Simon Phoenix is already there and he's looking for guns, and he actually finds the guns. So that's when the cops show up and they're like, all right, let's go here. Well, we get to see a little bit of the inside of the car, and it's funny because, again, you get to see what they think, you know, that the steering wheel is going to shrink or whatever. I don't know why. I mean, it looks cool. I don't see the purpose, but whatever. I mean, you don't even have an airbag in this thing. So, I don't think they didn't entirely get right, but whatever. You know, this smaller car, smaller, better for the environment, stuff like that. Self-driving cars. Actually, they actually got this one. Self-driving cars. But whatever. Sylvester Stallone doesn't know how to drive it, so he goes in the back. And here we learn about their music. So apparently the music that they hear is they listen to in the radio is like commercials. It's like old radio commercials and stuff like that. So they're like, all the kinds of kids eat hot. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why or what. Listen, there was something that the author here, that the writer wanted to say. I'm not. There's a lot that could be said here. There's a lot of things that could be broken down. Art's like music, it allows you free expression. It could be interpreted in many different ways. Artists tend to be free spirits and not to follow the rules. And there's music of defiance, stuff like that. So it was being censored. Maybe why the commercial music, like why the music, literally, like let's say like the Oscar Mayer Weenie song or whatever. Why is that on the radio? Why are they? Is it to say about? Is it a critique of consumerism? Is it because they were safe lyrics? I don't know. Again, you could debate this until the cows come home. We'll probably never know unless we ask the guy, and maybe the guy has answered, but I don't know the answer, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Just fun little fact: the songs that they listened to were there were songs, but they were jingles. All right, they were like product jingles. Anyway, Simon Phoenix gets a gun. Basically, long story short, he starts getting a whole bunch of weapons from museum. And he gets a futuristic weapon, like with a magnetic accelerator and yada yada yada. Now, I'm not an expert in any of these things, but I think the magnetic accelerator thing is what they use. Well, you know what? I'm not even gonna get into it because I think they did something with that, like that in Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, which is further on. I'm not sure which one came out first, to be honest, the first Metal Gear or not. But using magnets to shoot bullets, like that's a thing. I've seen afterwards, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. Point is, he finds a futuristic gun, and he's like, "Ooh, I like it." So he starts collecting stuff. The cops start getting people out of there, and Sylvester Stallone goes to face Simon Phoenix, son of a bitch. He goes to face Simon Phoenix with a stick. So he grabs his stick. He goes in there. Everybody else is out, and again, shootout. Eventually, John Spartan is able to get a weapon, and they start having the shootout in the middle of the museum. It's a close fight, you know. Even though Simon Phoenix has the advantage with guns and stuff, they break. Listen, it's a fight, all right. It's a fight, but clearly the one who has the advantage here is Simon Phoenix. So, you guys remember, like a rule in film, or the wrestling rule. The villain can't lose the first fight. Now, this movie already broke that rule, because Simon Phoenix lost the first fight between John Spartan and Simon Phoenix. He lost, straight up. He lost clean. John Spartan had clear dominance over him. Here, however, in the second fight, Simon Phoenix is clearly a better fighter in many ways. Now, the fight kind of ends up in a draw because they kind of both end up retreating in a way, but Simon Phoenix is not the same guy. And so what's important here is to show that there's something odd going on, all right? There's something that don't make no sense here. Why is it that this guy that was frozen for such a long time come out and is able to beat me? All right, I just whooped this guy's ass in what felt like, I don't know, a few days ago to me, and now all of a sudden he came back and he's freaking Jackie Chan. What the fuck is going on? So again, interesting stuff. So that fight is done, and as Simon Phoenix is running away, he encounters Mr. Cocteau, I believe that's how you say it, and for some reason he can't shoot him. Like, he's pointing a gun at him and he can't shoot him. He's like, what the heck? Why can't I kill this guy? So he can't, and so he runs away. That's when the cops show up, and he runs away. So the cops are like, dude, you're so lucky. You have John Spartan's like, you have no idea how lucky you are that he didn't kill you. That doesn't usually happen. This guy, like, shoots people like crazy. And the other guy's like, you're my hero. Let me invite you to dinner. John Spartan's like, all right, yes, we'll go to Taco Bell. And he's like, the Taco Bell? All right, you're like the richest guy in the city. You're like the most powerful guy. You're taking me to Taco Bell? All right. I guess I could take this moment to explain this, but basically, it turns out that there was there were fast food wars at some point between the 90s and 2030 something, and the winner ended up being Taco Bell. And that's why now every single restaurant out there is a Taco Bell. Now, in terms of predicting stuff, I don't know if you know this, but currently in the world, it's said that like, I don't know, like 7 companies own everything. All right, there's like 7 companies that own pretty much everything out there. All right, so you think there's like 100 different soda companies? It's not. It's like Coca-Cola owns most of them, and so it not exactly. So imagine if those 7 companies, the ones that own everything, pretty much, or that completely dominate a market, just gave the same name to all the products. So instead of it being, let's say, Sprite, Fanta, it was all just Coke or whatever. So like Coke Orange, Coke Lemon, or whatever. It's a little bit different when you're going so specific into products, but you know, again, I can't say they predicted it, but they're kind of close. It's not crazy. It's not, well, again, they took it to a crazy level. It's like, oh yeah, one company owns every single restaurant out there, and they all have the same name. All right. I mean, that would be massively confusing. Like, well, what? We'll meet at Taco Bell. Which one? Like, what Taco Bell? What are you talking about? Which one? So, in that sense, it would not be great, but, you know, it's possible. Possible. All right, so let's continue. So, you scared him away, blah, blah. And, so here we see that Mr. Cocktail is clearly not happy about John Spartan being, you know, woken up, but this guy's like, but the police chief's like, dude, you told me to do something, whatever it took, and this is kind of whatever it takes. I woke up the guy who stopped him in the first place. I woke him up. I got him out. Whatever. And here's where we learned that they used to call Sylvester Stallone the Demolition Man, which is a phenomenal nickname, by the way, the Demolition Man. It's basically because whenever he showed up, things got destroyed, which, you know, based. Next. So again, he gets invited to Taco Bell, and he's like, I don't know what the hell, but whatever. And here they start explaining how Mr. Cocktail is the guy in charge, that after, you know, the big earthquake, he started guiding people and giving them all direction and yada yada yada, blah blah blah, doesn't really matter. And so they're trying to figure out, well, where can we find Phoenix? Like, because there's advantages and disadvantages to the future, and one of the disadvantages of the future is that there's no paper money. It's only like credits, so it's only digital money. So in a way, not exactly predicting crypto, predicting credits. Now I'm honestly torn between getting rid of paper money, because if you get rid of paper money, you're gonna get rid of a lot of issues in society, and I mean a whole lot of problems in society. So if there's no paper money, and it's probably one of the reasons why there's so little crime in the future, because there's no paper money. So imagine drugs you can't buy drugs if the government knows what you spend your money on, and if there's a digital trace to what you spend your money on. So there's a bunch of government control. You can't just go to your drug dealer and be like, well, I'm gonna give you, I don't know, money for drugs. And how's he gonna report it? The IRS is gonna be like, why did he give you money? And he's like, for back rubs. Those are illegal too. So it's a way to control crime. I get it. I don't like it, because, you know, it's too much infringing in your rights. But again, you know, you give up some rights for protection, and the people who give up protection for rights, they give up their rights for protection and end up having neither, because eventually they'll take over, whatever. They'll freeze your accounts when you did nothing just because you said bad words or whatever. Again, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. But I do see how a lot of the problems in the world would get solved if there were no paper money, if it were all digital. Like, I'm going to go rob a bank, but there's no money. There's no paper money. It's all digital. So I'm going to go digitally steal money, kind of like Swordfish style, except they know where you sent it, so they can just be like, oh, well, we're just going to cancel that transaction. So I'm torn. I'm very torn. But they kind of predicted that how do you control crime? how do you control people? Which is this society is a society that's being controlled by the people up top. Which, let's say, government. Except here the government is kind of like all focused on one person, that they gave all the power to one single person. So it's closer to an, I don't know, dictatorship, to an empire, except it's like a benevolent, quote unquote. But how do you do it? You control their money, which is something that we can see. Like, we saw this again during COVID. You guys remember the truckers, the trucker protest in Canada? You remember how they froze their bank accounts? So the government froze their bank accounts. They had GoFundMes and they canceled them, and they started looking into the people who donated money to them. It was crazy. Like, it was crazy stuff. So again, not too far off. But anyway, to get back in the movie, they're trying to figure out, right, so he can't buy food, he doesn't have a place to stay, he doesn't have anything. Where could he go? And so they were like, well, we could just wait for him to kill somebody else, and then we'll go get him. And they were like, listen, it's a plan. All right, it's the best one that we got. So here we also learned that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a president, and Sylvester Stallone's like, what? So that's honestly a pretty great joke inserted in the movie. It's like, wait, Arnold Schwarzenegger was president? What? He's not even from here. What do you mean? And so here we get to see Simon Phoenix go underground. So he finds like a passageway underground, and we see him go underground, whatever. And now they arrive at Taco Bell, John Phoenix with Huxley, and it's a very nice place. It's very fancy. Everybody looks fancy and stuff. And by the way, let me just give you a quick reminder. There's no meat. All right, this is the future. Meat is illegal. There's fat people there, so maybe that's an error in casting, or maybe they're trying to tell you something there. But imagine going to Taco Bell now, and there's no meat on the menu. Just think about that. Let's continue. The music being sung there again is more commercial stuff. It's really weird. And they start, talking to the guests, and the guests are looking at him again like he's a caveman. It's like, oh, well, he's the hero of the hour. Like, he went there, he fought. What the hell are you talking about? He did this, blah, blah. And John Spartan, he's being honest, is like, yeah, you know what? The future kind of sucks. You're all a bunch of pussies, and I don't like these things. I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. And so the cock-do guy's trying to defend his vision, and again, you can just watch the movie, and he'll try to explain all that stuff. But John Spartan notices something while he was... Oh, he also mentioned that he had a nightmare while he was in cryo sleep, which is supposedly not supposed to happen, and apparently he gets told about the program or whatever that goes into his mind, supposedly for rehabilitation, yada, yada, yada. And so... symbolic of decayed area. Again, so this is just a conversation of debating who was better, the caveman or the people from the past. And here John Spartan notices something weird outside, so he tells Huxley to be ready, and that's when the underground people attack. So John Spartan goes out and starts kicking people's asses. So he stops a bunch of these people, and Dennis Leary is like, that motherfucker, and they get out of there. But overall, let's say John Spartan does a good job at saving people. And so Sandra Bullock is like, that was awesome. That was so hot. I want you. And the other guy's like, you saved me again. Blah, blah, blah. So Sylvester Stallone again is like, he's not happy of having to be violent. Like, it shows you a little bit of complexity in John Spartan's character. So it's like, dude, I don't want to hurt people. Like, then these people, they were just trying to get food. I don't want this. Like, I want to hurt bad people. These people are not bad people, all right? They were just hungry. Like, I want to take down bad guys, the people who kill people. Like, this is stupid. And so, again, it starts to... He's criminalizing poor people. Again, it's trying to tell you, criminalizing people who just want to eat and stuff like that. So, again, not exactly problems that we have today, because we actually have a problem with people being too fat and like our homeless people being fat, but kind of criminalizing the poor in a way, not exactly. Close a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, let's continue. So they go back to Huxley's apartment, and Let me see. I'm afraid she'll think I'm some kind. Oh yeah. No, Huxley's like, hey, do you want to find your daughter? And he's like, no, I'm afraid like she'll think I'm primitive or whatever, like a caveman. And while they're heading back home, we see that Simon Phoenix is in the office of Cocteau, and basically he's like, Cocteau, what the fuck? Why'd you unfreeze that guy? And I know since you're the guys controlling everything, I'm gonna need all these things. And he gives him a bunch of demands. And here we learn that apparently Phoenix got a bunch of upgrades and all this information, and he got freed all because of Cocteau. So Cocteau gave, I'll save that for when it's better. But basically Cocteau's the one that got him out there, and because he wants him to kill Mr. Friendly, which is Dennis Leary's character, who we've seen is one of the leaders of the underground movement. So clearly he's trying to get rid of the competition. And that's why since he couldn't find a killer in modern time because he neutered all the cops, he had to get a killer from the past. So there you go. So they arrive at Spartan arrives at Huxley's apartment, and again it's all 90s out and stuff like that. And Sandra Bullock basically is like, hey, listen, what you did was really hot and I'm still horny. Do you want to bang? And Sylvester Stallone's like, yeah, cool, fuck yeah, let's do that. Cool, all right, here. And so Sandra Bullock leaves the room, and she comes back, and she gives him a headset. And so they both put on a headset. Imagine like headphones, kind of. And here he starts having visions, sexy visions of Sandra Bullock. Let me see if I can catch one. Right. Okay. So visions of her, right? This is super interesting stuff. Again, you need to remember, this is the future. Sex is not allowed, all right? You need to get a permit, and the only reason why you could actually have sex or exchange of bodily fluids, even kissing. These are people who don't even high five. So even to kiss is not really because exchanging bodily fluids, it's not good for you because germs and stuff. But in order to have sex, you need to have a permit to procreate, and so the only reason why you would have sex would be to procreate, right? So they do it virtually, which is beyond fucking fascinating if you think about it in several ways. So, first way, and again, the way to predict it, virtual sex. Now, the question here is, does this count as doing it? I say no, because you haven't, physically touched. However, there's people who say that, have you ever done sexting? Have you ever done, like phone sex? Have you ever, I don't know, done digital, I guess, like texting and stuff, or like a video call, all that stuff? Would you consider that cheating? Well, now there's a difference between having sex and cheating, I guess. Big one, definitely. But where's the line? And where does it count? Like, when you're having sex with somebody, it's your bodies, but also your brains that are interacting, right? So here it's just the brains interacting. So you're getting pleasure from somebody else's brain. Does that count? If you get the same release, so if you get the orgasmic release, even if you don't touch, does that count? Now, bringing it to what the world is today, there's people who, there will be AI porn, right? There's sex robots. They're gonna add the AI to the sex robot, and people are gonna bang robots for sure. They're gonna bang AI. But there's virtual reality, so there's machines but they're still physical, right? They're still physical machines. Now I don't think that's ever gonna change because it's a big money industry to all that stuff. But if you could get pleasure straight into your brain, again, like the chip that Musk is working on that goes into your brain and does a whole bunch of different things. Like if it could just release pleasure, you think people would give up sex? Like actually having to, go and find somebody and interact and buy them drinks and have dinner and like each other and yada yada yada, blah blah blah, and then take your clothes off and then being hungover the next day and doing it, and then maybe getting an STD and maybe not, maybe getting pregnant and not. Would you think people would choose that, or just I got this chip on me, I was like, just turn it on? I don't know. it's interesting. So basically what this is, again, it's virtual sex. So here it's very directed to another person has to wear the headset and you're both in your own little pleasure world. But again, if you could do it with AI, so you type in your own little scenario. So I want the scenario where, I don't know, it's Sandra Bullock from Demolition Man, and so Agent Huxley, and she's dressed up as a cop, and what scenario do you think would be sexy in this situation? I don't want to reveal too much of what I like, but let's just say Sandra, like this scene, Sandra Bullock as Officer Huxley is trying to seduce me, and but she doesn't have her machine, so we need to find an alternative. So I need to convince her to do the alternative, right? Or force her even, because again, it's virtual, so it doesn't really fucking matter. So would you do it? It's interesting, and we will get there. So we can't say that it hasn't completely predicted it, because we will get there. There will be a point where we figure out the brain and we can insert stuff directly to it. And that's when I think that's going to be a serious problem for society, because if you can just start releasing, you know, like pleasure hormones in your brain, I can see people just pressing that fucking button all day. It'll be addictive. So I don't know. Well, we'll see. It's funny in this context. It's interesting. But it might have been another thing that it got right, and it could be pretty scary. I don't know. But again, virtual sex, it's a thing. Phone sex, sexting, all that stuff, it's a thing. This is a thing, and it got it right. So, let's continue here. All right, so, so more of those scenes. And he's like, no, this is stupid. Let's just do it the old-fashioned way. Sandra Bullock is like, you're a caveman. Get the fuck out of here. And he's like, all right, well, laters. Blue balls, goddammit. Then he starts looking around his apartment. They kind of predicted longer screens. Now, for a very long time, the movement was for wider screens. Now it's kind of like longer. And it's mainly because of phones. But again, phones, the iPhone did not exist back when this movie was made. So they got that right. Video calls, all that stuff. And he starts knitting oh, damn, there's nudity here. I forgot. Whoops. I might have to edit that. I don't know. Nah, I don't think so. So, and he starts knitting for some. So he starts checking out the video of, again, doing detective, doing officer work. And he sees that Phoenix actually speaks to Cocteau for a while. And he's like, what the hell? So he knits a sweater. And he's like, why the hell do I know how to knit a sweater? And that's when Huxley explains, like, well, part of your rehab training, you know, when you were frozen, we rewired parts of your brain, or you were supposed to start getting rewired. And part of your treatment was we needed to give you like an activity, and your activity was, you know, so you could have like a new profession when you came out, and that's basically being a seamstress. And he's like, that's stupid. So what did Phoenix get? And so they go in to check Phoenix's file, and basically they find that his rehabilitation program is like a weapons expert, hacking expert, hand-to-hand combat expert, all that stuff. So they're like, wait, this is not proper rehab. This is going to make this would create a monster. So again, whoopsie. And that's, you know, that's more and more evidence to them, like, dude, there's something really, really, really wrong going on here. So we need to go talk to somebody. So he goes to confront Cocteau. So first off, he already saw him on video talking to Phoenix and not dying. And now he's like, what the hell? Like, what is this program? So he confronts Cocteau. And Cocteau is like, prove it, bitch. And Phoenix basically, I don't know, and Spartan basically is like, you know what, dude? Let me tell you something. You can't control this guy. You think you're in control now, but you're actually not. And you're gonna regret it. That's when they find out that that there's going to be that's when they have a plan of where they're gonna look for him. And the place that they're gonna look for him is underground. So you guys remember like all the underground people, Dennis Leary stuff? So they live in the sewers. They're sewer people. And so where do cops don't have control? Where don't they have eyes? Where don't they know anything? It's underground. So they basically abandoned all the underground, and John Spartan's like, all right, well, I mean, if I was hiding, I'd go down there. So let's go down there to find him. They go down there, and it stinks. But we start seeing a few interesting things here. First off, they have music, they have meat. Sylvester Stallone famously eats a rat burger. Now we don't think it's a rat. They have beer. So Sylvester's like, this place is freaking great. It smells bad, but they got music, they got beer, and they got meat. What more? Honestly, what more can you want in life? So they start looking for this guy, and they get interrupted by the underground people, and he ends up having the underground people have guns, by the way. So this is one of the big flaws of the movie. If the underground people have guns, there's no way the surface people would take control of society, especially those pussies. You mean the pussies that say please and don't do that, sir, it's bad, are gonna beat the dudes with guns? I don't think so, but whatever. It's basically to show that it's kind of the Wild West down there. So Dennis Leary, they starts having a conversation. He's like, okay, you came for me, right? And he's like, I don't even know who the fuck you are, man. I don't care about you. I'm looking for Phoenix. And so Dennis Leary, starts going to a rant like, you know what, dude? We live down here because we like meat. We like music. We like drinking beer. We like guns. So we like being free. And so that's why we're down here. And we're trying to just, survive and get food and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. So he gives all the freedom speech, right? Which, this movie is telling you, it's a very interesting debate. So would you give up freedom for comfort, or would you give up comfort for freedom? It's interesting. It's a debate. Probably it's like a happy medium somewhere. But again, they're showing you like a massive contrast of your two options here. Take whichever one you want. Like whichever one you want. But it's interesting. And again, it's kind of, in a way, predicting to the way that we've been pushed in society. Like, you want this comfort, you want this convenience, you're gonna have to give up that. Now they took it to the extreme. And there you go. So, I want to read a Playboy magazine. That's great. That little speech is a lot of fun. So, there you go. So, they have this debate. And next we get to see River Phoenix. Damn it, son of a bitch! I should have just taken a shot every single time I said River Phoenix. God damn it. I don't have I don't think there's a bottle big enough. Simon Phoenix is getting his boys ready because thanks to Mr. Cocteau or whatever his name is, they released a bunch of criminals, and so they're setting up a plan to kill John Spartan and Friendly and whatever, blah blah blah. And so they're like, all right, let's go get this guy. They find him, and shootout begins. So shootout, ends up with Phoenix escaping again, right? So after he escapes, John Spartan chases him, with a car down streets. Everybody survives, by the way. Well, at least, Mr. Friendly and Stallone and Huxley. There's this car chase, blah, blah, blah. And during this car chase, Sylvester Stallone ends up alone with Phoenix fighting outside of a car while he's being dragged, pretty much. And Phoenix is like, you know what? I got you. I beat you back in 96 because all those hostages were already dead. So you went to jail for nothing. And so here, he's confessing. For those of you who don't remember, at the start of the movie, John Spartan goes to jail because supposedly he was reckless, and his reckless actions led to the death of a busload of hostages. Here, Simon's like, yeah, the hostages were already dead, bro. So you went to jail because of me, so I beat you, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. John Spartan's like, you motherfucker. And they keep fighting. And the fight ends with Sylvester Stallone's car crashing in the water and Phoenix getting out of there. So everybody's like, dude, you're under arrest. And Spartan's like, try and stop me. And so you and your little sticks try and stop me. And he joins the underground people. He's like, all right, let's go this way because I'm pretty sure they're going to go this way. So there you go. He basically leaves. Now, Mr. Cocteau, he gets a visit from Simon Phoenix again. And Simon Phoenix finally figures out how to kill him. orders somebody else to kill him. So one of his goons shoots the guy. So now Cockdu's dead. And the one in control is Simon Phoenix. And Simon Phoenix's plan is like, you know what? Let's just go and release all the criminals and just take over this place because everybody's a bunch of pussies. And since they're a bunch of pussies, we'll be able to take over this place like it's nothing because we got all the guns, except for the underground people. But the underground people suck anyway. Or actually, we kind of like the underground people, so all we have to do is get rid of the head, and you know, they'll be our people, and we'll be kings. Yay! So that's the plan. And so again, John Spartan goes up there to stop him. Huxley helps. You know, fight. Oh, we learned that Huxley actually knows how to fight because of Jackie Chan movies, which is fun. And they learn the plan that they're going to, you know, defrost everybody from the prison. And so they're on their way back to stop Simon Phoenix. They go to the prison. Sylvester Stallone reaches the prison. And again, fighting, shootout. At one point, Phoenix has the upper hand. At one point, John Spartan, up, down, moving around, all the stuff, mechanism, using the cryo stuff. Fight. Looks like Phoenix might have taken, you know, the upper hand. And, again, fight. Debate, you know, like the bad guy speech against the good guy speech. Again, it's an action movie, so it's mostly action. It's not bad that the fight's long, and it's an okay fight. It's not the best fight I've seen, but it's not terrible. And it already happened? Boo. Well, basically, John Spartan finds a way to freeze Phoenix without him noticing. He breaks like a frozen stick. You see, that thing has like a little ball, the thing that makes everything freeze. So he breaks it. And that thing, you know, makes Phoenix freeze, and then afterwards he kicks his frozen body, destroys it, and he just runs the hell out of there. So the Demolition Man just demolitioned another building. He got the hell out of there. He got out. The cops like, "Damn it, Spartan! Why'd you do that? What are we gonna do now? I don't get this." And basically, John Spartan's solution is, all right, listen, underground people, you guys need to take a shower. Surface people, you need to stop being a bunch of pansies. Be friends. Get out of here. You know, think for yourselves. And that's pretty much how that ends. So he ends up getting Huxley. They make out, and Huxley's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm actually liking this fluid interaction thing." Yada. And boom, that's how the movie ends. All right, so there you go. I managed to keep it at an hour, I think. So that's not totally bad. Not totally bad. Like an hour or something. So there you go. That was Demolition Man. So I recommend the movie. It's fun. And again, it's just little teeny tiny bits that it got there that was very interesting. Now, the biggest thing throughout this movie is toxic masculinity. All right? I think that's the biggest thing it predicted. Because they keep calling John Spartan a caveman. Like he's a barbarian. The dude was they needed that caveman in order to beat the other psycho guy. So toxic masculinity is what you need to defeat toxic masculinity, because they show you the two polar opposites, right? They show you toxic masculinity gone awry toward the destructive side, toxic masculinity into the protective side, right? Because, you know, men, biologically, genetically, we are trained to defend, all right? And to destroy. We're really good at both. And so they show you the two sides of it, and they show you, you know, the attack on masculinity, the attack on how they try to belittle it and make it like a bad thing, but it's a thing that you need. You need it in a society. It's a good thing, because otherwise they will run right over you. They will destroy you. There are forces in this world that will destroy. They will eat you up alive if you give it a chance. I've had this conversation so many times. I can't tell you how many times. Let's say, for example, like there's policy X, or there's this idea, oh, we should do this. And I tell them, like, listen, we shouldn't do that. That's a really bad idea. You definitely do not want to do that. And they're like, no, but why? Because if you do this, this is going to happen. People are going to do this to take advantage of it. And then they're like, no, people wouldn't do that. People don't think that way. And I'm like, I think that way. I thought of it. Right now, as soon as I heard you say it, I thought about doing it. So you can't tell me that nobody would think that way, because I think that way. I would do it. I want to do it just to teach you a lesson, just to teach you not to be so stupid. So again, yeah, I get it. Listen, I worked with an extremely kind-hearted woman for a very long time. She was kind of an idiot when it came to stuff like this. And at the end, reality will smack you in the face, because bad people exist and they will take advantage of you, and they did take advantage of her several times, and she ended up falling face first, and me, I just got to stand behind being like, told you so, so I'd rather not have that not happen to people, but what can you do? Anyway, back to the topic at hand. The biggest thing from this movie, again, you could say VR sex is fun, toxic masculinity is fun, the three seashells thing's weird, all that stuff. But the big thing here is that it's not 2032 yet. it's 2020. It's 2023, and we could see the ghost of these things. If certain things happen a certain way, could we reach that level, or is it possible that we won't? And most importantly, we see that it's not a good thing. So if we get the pure version of reaching that level, which we're not there yet, but if we have like a pure version of that level, of reaching that level, we see it's not good. We see it's not a good future. All right? Future where you like PC culture, where you can't even say bad words, where you get canceled, or you get fined by the government for talking when you're by yourself. That's not a good place to live. Like, having that much control over you is not fun. It's not good. We used to understand these things. In the 90s, we saw that as like, dude, those are the baddies. Like, those are the bad guys. Hopefully, as we keep doing this, as we keep going through, underrated gems or movies from the 80s, 90s, we'll see common sense again. All right? We will see how comedy used to work, where we just brutally made fun of everything for whatever fucking reason. I may do Blazing Saddles here one time. Like, I really want to. I won't start with it, but I will do Blazing Saddles eventually. Why? Because fuck you, that's why. And because it's fun, and because it's funny. And we used to just, we used to have thicker skins. And I do not like all this censorship stuff. I've been complaining about it for years. But I already have another movie in mind. Like, next week, I already know which one I'm going to do. So I'm not going to do it now. And also, I need to find somewhere that streams it, because I'm not sure where it's being streamed. I need to figure that out first. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it got canceled already. Who knows? Point is, fun stuff. And I like this. It took an hour, but I enjoyed it. And honestly, I do this podcast for me. So there you go. As always, comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at DarioSDW and at Super Dario World. Hopefully you enjoyed this very first episode of Underrated Gems. Next week, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like I should do The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney one, because it's a great fucking movie, and I re-saw it as an adult, and it's not for kids. It's for grown-ups. If you see it as a grown-up, awesome. In fact, you know what? I'll do that one just so you have, if you want to, you have a week to check out the movie before I break it down a little bit. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I talk about a movie for an hour. It's a silly movie. I wouldn't even say it's a great movie, but it was fun. It was stupid. It was enjoyable. I might keep doing this. It was fun. All right. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time. Oh, wait. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Like I said, I really need it. So it really helps me out. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.